Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so this year I decided to wait until after the trade deadline to talk about all the trades that ultimately took place rather than keep on making videos every 5 minutes. And as I'm making the videos, more stuff comes in. After doing this maybe 4 years now, I just say, you know what, just wait for everything to trickle in and then respond because it's not like I'm going live anyway. You're going to see this later regardless. So that's how I decided to do it this year. And I'm going to try to go back and forth between Fanspo and Instagram as it pertains to Shams, what he's reported, and then just try to go on there and see what I see in regards to each of the trades that were made today, and some of what was done yesterday that I did not report on. So it's a lot of stuff too, man. It's a bunch of crap I didn't report on, to be honest with you guys. But yeah, so we just start from you guys know about AD. We talked about that. I think we talked about Jared McCain for certain. I know we did. Kobe White went to the Charlotte Hornets. I'm pretty sure we talked about that. Yeah, we did. Where we start off here is with Chris Paul. Something that happened yesterday. Chris Paul was traded from the Clippers to the Toronto Raptors. Ochai Agbaji lands in Brooklyn, and the Raptors get a second rounder and some cash routed. Wait a minute. No. Ochai and the 32 Raptors second rounders goes to the Nets along with some cash to Brooklyn. And Chris Paul is likely waived today from the Raptors. I don't think it's been done yet, but he did nothing to report there. They're going to let him go, and I don't think he's going to sign with another team. I think he's going to retire. I think. We'll see, though. So, yeah, I like this for all teams involved. The Clippers get to move on from Chris Paul, who was somewhat considered toxic, I guess, according to their circumstances. Toronto, obviously, is able to kind of get some cash off their books. They move on from Ochai Agbaji's contract, which, you know, I can take a look at here and see what they had going on. That ended up in Brooklyn. So just take a look at it, see if this is a good little formula for me. Yeah, one expiring contract, $6 million. They were able to get that off the books. It was going to come off the books anyway, but at least they didn't lose them for nothing. They were able to facilitate something, maybe get a trade exception off of that. Likely is what happens there. So they don't lose them for nothing. That's the main thing. You don't want to lose a guy like Ochai Agbaji, a young player, for nothing if you're the Raptors. You know, and that's pretty much that. Toronto is now out of the tax. Brooklyn picks up an asset and cash to cover Agbaji's salary, and the Clippers, of course, cleared up a roster spot to do some other things that we're going to report on going forward here. So that's what happened there. Chris Paul finally moves on from the Clippers for a second time and probably into retirement. That's probably how that's going to go. And Ochai Agbaji, I think, is a nice piece for the Brooklyn Nets. I actually like what the Brooklyn Nets did, picking up players, just little role players here and there. They did about 3 or 4 moves like that, and I don't hate it. I really don't. For their team, they could take a flyer on guys and see if they work out. And I think they picked up some guys who've already started the process of their development, but haven't fully developed. It's a good place to showcase these guys. So we'll talk about them as we go along. Next up, Cleveland Cavaliers traded Lonzo Ball and 2 second-rounders to the Utah Jazz. The Jazz have since waived Lonzo Ball, I believe, or they're about to. That's imminent if they haven't done it already, and he will be a free agent to sign with somebody as a buyout candidate. So for the Cavs, it made sense because, of course, they needed to clean up some things with their guard position, given the fact they had brought in some guards. They can't do what Chicago's doing. They need to make sense of their roster, and so they have Schroeder in place. Of course, they picked up James Harden in a trade. So this made sense for them in a sense that they didn't really need Lonzo Ball expiring, I think, at $10 million. You know, they got Porter Jr. as well as a guard. So it was more about consolidating and making sure that their roster made sense for them, make sure their books make sense. And that's what they were able to do. So that's really what it was there. Lonzo Ball, I'm not sure what place he would go to at this point. There are a couple teams that need guards. First team that comes to mind immediately is the Houston Rockets. I know they're going to get somebody, but they got a couple guys they can choose from. Not everybody's going to go there. But when you think about teams that need point guards, Dallas is another one as well. So Lonzo's going to find somewhere to play in the NBA. I'm pretty damn certain he's not out of the league. I think people need to temper their expectations given his injury history and just overall knee stuff. But he's healthy right now. He should be ready to go. And based on what I've seen from Lonzo, he can make your team better just off the strength of his passing and his three-point shooting ability. He may not be as fast as he used to be. He may not be able to do some of that defensive stuff. But he's a talented, super talented player who's still fairly young. He ain't even 30 yet. So I'd like to see Lonzo still go. 2 years, $10 million. I thought he was expiring. But this says 2 years. But with Fanspo, as you guys have been following me, you can never tell because I think they're counting last year as a year as well. In a lot of cases, they haven't updated their years. Or I don't understand them a lot of times. But last I checked, Lonzo Ball was expiring. So let me see what the contract says. He has a team option for 2026. So, yeah, he's been waived. Regardless, he's not on that contract anymore. So, at this point, Lonzo's free to sign with somebody else. And that contract, whatever it was, 2 years or 1 year, is away from Cleveland. So, that's what the Cleveland Cavaliers want to do, and that's that. All right, next up, the Hawks acquired Jock Landale from the Jazz for cash consideration. So, Jock Landale finds himself somewhere else. A lot of players were traded more than once, so we'll cover that type of thing. But Jock Landale is a player who's been playing pretty well. I wasn't too high on him going into this season, but I've seen him play much better for Memphis this year. So the Hawks boosted their front court with Jock Landale. They did a couple things in that regard too. I don't hate it. Nothing too major, but for the Hawks, I think they feel pretty good about Jock Landale. And of course, the Jazz, they don't necessarily need Jock Landale. He was a throw-in for their situation, getting Jaren Jackson. So they have plenty of front court help. They don't need to waste roster spots on guys like Jock at all. They need to be allowing for their kids to get showcased, and ultimately they made the good decision of making sure they move on from fillers in trades right away, unlike the Lakers who kept their fillers. And they can't move them now. Guys like Maxi Kleber, this is what the Lakers should have did with Maxi Kleber. They were hoping they could move him at the trade deadline, and they didn't. So, yeah, Jock Landale, $2 million expiring minimum, 1 year deal. That's $2 million off the books. Dirt cheap for the Hawks. Just another center they can throw in there. Nothing to really consider at all, to be honest with you. But he is playing better, so he'll land with the Hawks. A new look Hawks team has a whole lot of new stuff. So, enough of that. Cash considerations also going to the Jazz in trade there. Yeah, they traded him for money, literally. What else going on? What you got here, Shams? So, the Orlando Magic are trading Tyus Jones to the Charlotte Hornets, and then Tyus Jones was later traded again. We'll cover that. But, yeah, that's how that went for cash considerations once again. So, for Tyus Jones, I believe he landed in Phoenix, and we'll cover that later on as we go forward. But some of these guys were like traded again and again and again, that type of thing. And I think his final landing spot was Phoenix. I don't know if they've updated that yet. I could be wrong, but we'll keep an eye open for him because I think he landed somewhere else, and I thought it was Phoenix, but I'm not really sure. So, yeah, Tyus Jones leaves the Hornets. He was the Hornets, The Hornets received 2 second-rounders along with Tyus Jones in the deal, lifting up to 11 first-round picks and 14 second-round picks over the next 7 years for the Hornets. And the Orlando Magic get out of the luxury tax there. So it's a good deal for the Hornets. They were able to get them second-round picks, continue to become pick-rich, and they can be big players going forward. I like what the Hornets are doing. Their front office is making some sound decisions, in my opinion. And again, we'll keep an eye open for where Tyus actually landed. Golden State Warriors, next up, they made a deal last night that was pretty big. They picked up Porzingis in exchange for Kuminga and Buddy Hield. And, of course, we made a lot of videos on Kuminga over the years. The Golden State Warriors mismanaged his value something fierce, and for them to get Kristaps Porzingis, whose career is literally at risk right now based on his health stuff, it just speaks to why I believe that the Golden State Warriors have one of the worst GMs in the game, man. I really think that Mike Dunleavy is horrific at this game. This thing he does, general managing. He's awful at it, and one of the reasons why I think he's so terrible at it is because he assesses teams players wrong, and he usually brings them old guys. I know you're on a win now timeline, and I know ownership has probably asked him to do some things that may have been unreasonable. There may be some context that I'm lacking as to what the Golden State Warriors have really been up to. But based on what it is I've been seeing, he just continues to bring them things that can't help them, mismanaging things and overpricing things that are young and should be developed properly. And then you have a combination of that and Steve Kerr, who doesn't want to play these kids a lot of times, has these weird rotation issues that ultimately doesn't showcase what they have. And it's just those two things coming together to make the Golden State Warriors as bad as they've been, mediocre as they've been, trying to hold on to two timelines, believing in the young players enough to want to hold them hostage, but not believing them in enough to actually develop them properly and give them the minutes necessary for the value to be raised. It's just a bad situation. The Golden State Warriors have been bad for about 6 years now, since they won the championship, whenever that was, 5 years, whenever it was. They have been bad ever since, in my opinion. Steph Curry has been carrying them, but they've been making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And for Kuminga, one of their young players that's supposed to be taking the reins from the Golden State Warriors, to be traded for an old Kristaps Porzingis and to have his value be so low that you need to attach Buddy Hield in order to do that, it's egregious, man. They have mismanaged their assets horrifically, man. And the best thing Steph Curry can do for himself is to say goodbye to the Golden State Warriors. Get out of there if you want to continue to win. You can't do it there, bro. They're not going to make good decisions. And if you want to go down with the ship, if you're confident that winning enough championships has been done and now you just want to go home with the Golden State Warriors regardless, then you can do the Kobe thing if you want. But you're leaving a lot of wins on the table, man, because you could go somewhere like Denver. You can go somewhere like New York. You can go somewhere, maybe not New York, but a good franchise and compete for a championship right now. You still got plenty left in the tank, even at 37 years of age. You ain't got to go out like this with these horrible decisions that this team been making. So that's really my take on it. The Warriors had Porzingis as a target for the last couple months. Why? The boy ain't been on the floor. He got like 7 different health ailments. Why would anybody be targeting him? Just a stupid decision. It's just a very stupid decision. Kuminga is going to go to Atlanta. I'm not sure he's going to have the opportunities that you would hope for him to have. Maybe he would have had in Los Angeles, or maybe he would have had in Sacramento, because they do have a lot of players in their front court. They do have, Jalen Johnson. So I don't think he has a path to being a starter. But I can guarantee you he is so happy to be out from under Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors, because if people didn't believe in him, they weren't going to play him properly. He wasn't going to be able to spread his wings. They weren't going to pay him properly. And they've just been kind of keeping him hostage for the last 3 or 4 years. He's been ready to get out of there for a long time. I'm sure anywhere for him is better than there, but hopefully he hasn't been rocked into being a role player to the point where he can't get any better from here because he's been in that role for so long. A guy like that needed to get out of that situation sooner, start developing more of a role somewhere so that he can start kind of spreading his wings and becoming who he was drafted to be. Sometimes young guys stay in these role-playing situations for too long, and they just can't develop, man. And so we're going to see what's up with Jonathan Kuminga. I think the Atlanta Hawks have made a lot of positive decisions, revamping their roster. They should be a playoff team, even though right now they're behind a little bit. But picking up Buddy Yield's good shooting. Obviously, they lost Luke Kennard. We'll talk about that in a minute. He went to my Lakers, from which I'm very pleased. But, that's what Buddy Hield can do, is kind of replace Luke Kennard. And they got Corey Kispert in place. So they got a lot of shooting around Jalen Johnson. Nickeil Alexander-Walker still there. The Hawks have a better roster than their record, in my opinion. And I think Jonathan Kuminga only makes them a more favorable potential playoff situation, destination, whatever the word would be. They're a potential playoff team. And I think that Jonathan Kuminga can only help with their athleticism. I think he's going to be a hot fly act for them. And, I'm not the biggest Quinn Snyder fan, but I do believe Quinn Snyder will give him more opportunities than Steve Kerr did. So, not the greatest landing spot for Kuminga, but hey, anywhere is better than Golden State for him. So, as far as Porzingis, I mean, can you get healthy Porzingis? Of course you fit on Golden State overall. You're stretch 5. Him and Al Horford. If you forget how old both of these people are, you can actually squint and be excited about their front court. But the reality is, they got Porzingis maybe 4 years too late, man. Um, this is a situation where you just don't know if he's going to be able to play. If he plays, and he can be a good source of rim protection, probably their best shot blocker immediately. But you got a lot older now. Golden State was already a fairly old team, and now you moved on from a young player in Kuminga and a fairly in his prime guy in Buddy Hield, and you brought back a guy who you expect to probably play 10 games for you. So, do I think the Warriors did a good job? If Porzingis is healthy, I'm always excited about Porzingis. He's a $30 million expiring contract, so for that reason, he could be interesting. Coming off the books, that could be good. $30 million coming off the books can be very exciting for any team. So from that standpoint, you feel great. But, they got older, man. They got older. And a team like Golden State that's built around Steph and Dre did not need to be bringing in another 30-something-year-old. So, and they still got Jimmy on the books. They weren't able to move him at the deadline. He's hurt for the season. It's just, I really believe that they're in a stuck spot because of the decisions that they made leading up to this point. And I don't think they look any better right now. In fact, I think they look a lot worse because you didn't just bring in Porzingis. What you actually did was move on from 2 able-bodied players and brought yourself somebody who's not able-bodied. Porzingis ain't expected to play. Kuminga was always available for you. Buddy is healthy and young. You move 2 able-bodied dudes for somebody that you don't expect to stay healthy at all, who's not healthy right now. So, is this a good decision? From a contractual standpoint, sure. Getting $30 million off the books at the end of the season could be an attractive thing for the Golden State Warriors. But I think it still speaks also to their inability to respect timeline, age, and all these different things that just have to be pivoted away from. When I talk about why the Memphis Grizzlies are a winner, why the Chicago Bulls are a winner at the deadline, it's because they're pivoting away from timelines that are toxic for them. The Golden State Warriors is a team that needs to pivot away from a toxic timeline, and they're afraid to do so. They're afraid to do so. They don't want to move on from Steph Curry. And because of it, they're making poor decisions that shouldn't be made that's going to drive them further and further into being a bad team, and when it's going to prolong the ineptitude of their future, because eventually they're going to have to tank. So having all of these bad years that they're having right now, and then pivoting to the tank is going to leave for a long process of not winning for a team that's used to winning championships, a fan base that's used to winning championships. The sooner you pivot, the sooner you can start the difficult process of being bad for a couple years. The longer you wait, you suck. And then when you pivot, you suck even worse. It just makes for about 10, 11 years of sucking, man. And that's exactly what this front office and this ownership has set this franchise up with the decisions that they made to poorly assess talent, to bring themselves a bunch of old guys, surrounding old guys, to not develop young talent but not move on from that young talent soon enough to capture the potential value of what they could be. It's just a bad organization. They've been bad for a couple years now, and they're going to be bad going forward. And this is just another example of why. Kristaps Porzingis is an expiring contract. Anybody can look good at $30 million expiring for this situation, especially with Jimmy on the books at $54 million. So for that reason, of course, you feel great. Podziemski, Moses Moody, when are these guys going to get opportunities to actually play as starters, man? That's the question. Wiseman turned into nothing. Kuminga turned into nothing. Your young talent that was supposed to be taking the reins from Steph Curry turned into nothing, Golden State. It's just garbage. I'm not a believer in nothing they got going on. I think the best thing for Steph Curry to do is to get out of there as soon as humanly possible, bro. And if he doesn't do that, he's going to go down with the ship. They're going to continue to suck. Another young player. Next thing we got to talk about, Golden State sending out a player that I like a lot, Trayce Jackson-Davis. He went to the Toronto Raptors for a 2026 second-round pick, my Laker pick, basically. One of our second-rounders for this upcoming season is headed to the Golden State Warriors for Trayce Jackson-Davis. You trying to tell me that this young player that continues to kill my Lakers when we see him, when you give him minutes, the rare times you give him minutes, he tends to be a Laker killer. You trying to tell me that with all the problems that you have, you couldn't get anything more out of him than a second-round pick? You let Steve Kerr bury him on the back of the bench so bad that you couldn't get anything better than my second-round pick for this upcoming season? Trayce Jackson-Davis is a baller. He proved that many times with the Golden State Warriors. They just buried him on the back of the bench just because Steve Kerr likes playing small players. They would have DMPs for this guy. When he did play, was he an offensive rebounding monster, put back dunks, bully ball. I'm a big fan of Trayce Jackson-Davis. I think he can be a nice role player, a very good center for a team like the Raptors. Slapping him next to all the rest of their big body guys that are physical, they got plenty of that. And he's going to just booster that even more. Colin Murray-Boyles, Scotty Barnes, Trayce Jackson-Davis, they're going to be able to do twice as much with Trayce Jackson-Davis as the Golden State Warriors were willing to do with this dynamic. Yet another young player that they should have been showcasing to get the most out of, who has plenty of upside, good pedigree. His dad played for the Pacers for a million years. Dale Davis, I ain't forgot that either. This is a good player. And the Warriors tanked his value to the bottom of the earth and weren't able to get anything more than a second-round pick out of him. This is ineptitude, y'all. This is ineptitude. It's nothing short of it. So, this is just yet another mistake that the Golden State Warriors made. Not showcasing their young guys and letting them drown out to this particular value. Should have never happened. Why? Because Draymond should have been gone. He should have been gone years ago. But because they wanted to stay on the stupid timeline, a guy like Trayce Jackson-Davis, who likely could have been considered a good starting player or a very nice six-man type player, gets traded for a second-round pick. The Golden State trash, man. I can't stress it enough. They trash. They old. They got bad GM. The coach probably need to be moving on because he believes in small ball, doing all types of stuff. This team is awful, man. Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry, and Podziemski. That's what they got. Moses Moody is probably one of my favorite two-way players in a bench role situation. He ain't even getting good opportunities. He probably going to get traded for a second-round pick or lose him for nothing eventually down the road. This team just continues to disrespect youth and timeline. And Steph Curry, they're doing it in the name of you. They're making mistakes because you're there, man. You need to just, if you love that organization, put them out of their misery and get the hell out of there. The same thing I said about Giannis. They're making all these mistakes because they don't know how to handle you. That's what it is. They don't know how to handle you. They don't know what to do around you. They're making all the mistakes in the world because they're trying to keep you. And as a result, you're losing. Relieve them of that and get the hell out of there. Giannis, same thing. Both of y'all need to go elsewhere so that your organization can stop doing dumb stuff in the name of your timeline. There is a way to assure that your win now timeline is a success. Those two teams are doing it the wrong way. That's really what it comes down to. They're doing it the wrong way. All right, next up, Knicks trading Yorshan Yabusele to the Bulls for Dalen Terry. All right, so I was listening to a Bulls fan this morning. He was saying a lot of stuff I didn't agree with, but this gave me some insight. This could have potentially been considered a bad trade. Now the thing about it is, though, well, no, forget that. Just scratch that. Yorshan Yabusele is a player who is an undersized center. Philadelphia used him a lot at the center position last year. Even though he's like 6'8", guy from France, did some good things in the Olympic Games, I believe it was, or basketball, whatever the International Basketball Championship was last time. He did really good, earned himself a contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. He decided not to stay with the Sixers. He went to the Knicks and did not have this great a year this year with the Knicks. The Knicks then traded him to the Chicago Bulls. Thing about him, though, is when he signed with the Knicks, he picked up a player option. Dalen Terry does not have a player option. He's expiring contract. So essentially, the Chicago Bulls signed Yorshan Yabusele and allowed for him to dictate whether or not he opts in next year. Now, is he opting in at something decent? I'm not really sure, but you traded an expiring contract after doing everything you can to load up on expiring contracts, and you brought yourself a guy who's going to be having to be able to dictate terms in the offseason. So that part is a little strange. From a roster standpoint, the Bulls have been bringing themselves so many guards that I can totally see why moving on from Dalen Terry, underperforming guard, made all the sense in the world. But kind of turning him into Yabusele I don't know if they had a need for him necessarily, and I don't know that this was the best play for them. Jalen Smith is likely their new center going forward. Their young center, I like him a lot. Zach Collins kind of been hurt all year. He's expiring $18 million. So maybe they just have this idea that Gershon Yabusele can be a nice, small size, undersized center for them. And if he can go back to being who he was for the Philadelphia 76ers, maybe they like the piece. But allowing for him to have a player option going into next season, 5 years, $5 million rather, 2-year deal is what it says here. I think that's something to probably steer clear of. But for the sake of the roster itself, I guess they feel like he can help them as at the center position. They're going to tank anyway, so it's not like they're trying to win. But just from a structural standpoint, roster standpoint, they probably thought, this is somebody we like a lot. So, Yabusele, I think he's pretty solid. Stretch the floor a little bit, play hard, offensive rebound a little bit. He can be good in this situation, I guess. But and Dylan Terry, from what I understand, was severely underperforming. I took somebody else's word for that. I really don't know. But, letting him have a player option is a little questionable. Trading an expiring contract for a player option when you're doing nothing but acquiring a bunch of expiring contracts, it just seems a little counterproductive. So that's what I had to say about that. And then Dylan Terry didn't last long where he was at because he got retraded again. We'll cover that, so we don't even have to talk about Dylan Terry for the Knicks because they flipped him later on. So we'll move on from that. Next thing to talk about, this was a big one, man. So the Bulls traded Ayo Dosunmu to the Timberwolves today for Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 second-round picks. Julian Phillips also is headed to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it's one of those situations where the same person I was listening to discussing their last, thing was also discussing this contract, this trade, and he loved it for Minnesota and hated it for Chicago. I actually like it for both teams. And the reason why is because I think that's a hell of a haul for Ayo Dosunmu. Now, I know Ayo Dosunmu's been playing great for the Bulls. I know that. And, he's really developed into a nice player. He's from Chicago, so it's kind of sad to see him leave home. But overall, I think he's going to obviously a winning situation in Minnesota. Minnesota only let go of, within their regular rotation, they only let go of Mike Conley. Now, of course, they're moving on from Dillingham and Miller, from I'm higher on Dillingham than most. I really like Miller, even though he hasn't had opportunities yet. This guy doesn't have much of. He don't like. The person I'm referring to did not like Rob Dillingham at all. He didn't think nothing of Rob Dillingham, and he didn't mention Leonard Miller as an exciting prospect. I really like Rob Dillingham as an offensive piece. I think he's extremely talented. I just think that he's undersized guard, just like a lot of other guys get targeted defensively. You tend to don't want those guys on your team too often unless they have like Iverson talent. Thing about Rob Dillingham is he may have Iverson talent, but he's not. He's never going to be a helpful defensive piece. He's never going to be on a basketball floor where he's not targeted. And so there's a cap to what you think most guys his size can do in the modern league. But his talent level is undeniable. His scoring, his dribbling, and stuff like that. He's a monster of an offensive talent. And you just wonder if he's actually going to be successful in the NBA. But he's the type of dude, if he ends up in China, he's going to be a GOAT in China type dude. Like, he's not normal, Rob Dillingham. He has some natural basketball skills, dribbling the ball and scoring the ball. It can't be taught, but he's about my height. He probably weighs less than me, too, so that's a bad thing. So Minnesota moves on from him after trading, I think if I'm not mistaken, they traded 2 first-round picks to get him. Traded him to the Spurs. The Spurs moved on from him on draft night. It looked crazy to me because on draft night, everybody in that lottery looks great. But, Minnesota never gave Rob Dillingham opportunities to really be himself. He thought he would take the point guard reins, and their coach just never played young players. So that's the thing with the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's sort of like a Golden State dynamic. When you have a coach on your situation that doesn't like playing young players, you can draft a guy in the first round. If he ain't going to play him, he's not going to develop. He puts him out there with a short amount of rope, margin for error. Maybe he doesn't play well in the games that he does play him, and he buries him on the back of the bench. And then you look up and you're trading him as a throw-in, and he has a reputation for being a guy that's not very good. It's not that he wasn't very good. It's that he never got opportunities. And the opportunities he did get, because he didn't get many opportunities, he probably didn't play well in. So it just tumbles forward to young players and actually never gaining value, but then gaining reputations for not being any good, only to find them in situations where they are given opportunities and then they can showcase what they're going to do. I think the same is going to be with Trayce Jackson-Davis. I think the same is going to be with Leonard Miller, potentially Rob Dillingham in Chicago. Now, the problem with Rob Dillingham in Chicago is Chicago has 1 million guards. This is guard hell we're talking about. So I don't see any minutes necessarily potentially going his way unless they waive a couple of guards. So I'm kind of concerned about Rob Dillingham going forward in this situation. But Leonard Miller is a high-energy swing with two-way ability. He can defend, can't really shoot, but he can drive at the rim. He's really high energy. I haven't forgotten Leonard Miller. I actually had interest in the Lakers potentially drafting Leonard Miller a couple years ago when we took Jalen Hood-Schifino. I like Leonard Miller, but I also understand he's been in Minnesota not getting any playing time. He's usually been in the G League. That coach don't ever play young players. And so here we are. Leonard Miller is a throw-in the Ayo Dosunmu trade. But I'm not sure that 3 years from now, if we're not playing at Leonard Miller enough minutes, he doesn't play his value up to where Ayo Dosunmu is right now. He don't have some of the same attributes as Ayo Dosunmu, but what I'm saying is in his own right, he has the ability to play his value up significantly. So based on my belief in the two players that Minnesota gave up, and the fact that they gave up 4 second-round picks on top of that, I think this might be a little more than what I think Ayo Dosunmu is actually worth. 4 second-round picks to me is like a first-rounder. I don't think much of Julian Phillips. I don't know if Julian Phillips is probably a throw-in. He might, another young player, probably needs some more opportunities. I don't know. Maybe he makes a name for himself in Minnesota somehow. Probably won't because the coach ain't going to play no young players. But Ayo Dosunmu I like a whole lot. Especially for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who didn't have to lose anybody in their structure of players they use, and add a two-way talent like Ayo Dosunmu, who's going to get a lot of assists, who's going to steal the ball, he's going to get points, he's going to get to the line, he's hitting threes now. He's really a complete basketball player at this point with great size. And players like that come, very expensive in this league right now. So I get it. It's not like I'm sitting here saying, the Timberwolves shouldn't have played this price. I think it's okay to pay this price. But to be down on what Chicago acquired is not really knowledgeable as it pertains to how valuable 4 second-round picks can be. If you listen to my video last night, we talked about second-round picks and how they could be valuable as currency to create opportunities, to gain flexibility and leverage. And the Bulls have loaded up, just like the Charlotte Hornets have, on about 14 second-round picks. The guy I was listening to said, I don't know what they're going to do with those second-round picks. I guess, the guy who is the GM for their team, I guess, was the guy who drafted Jokic. And I guess essentially what this guy was saying is Jokic was found in the second round. Maybe this guy thinks he can find another Jokic. That's not what this is about. This is about valuing what second-round picks and first-round picks can be from your flexibility standpoint. You can trade those things for things that you want. It gives you leverage to negotiate properly for yourself. So his opinion didn't align with my understanding. And based on what I have in my head, this was a fantastic haul for Ayo Dosunmu. Fantastic haul. Because a rebuilding team like Chicago can certainly use players like Rob Dillingham, who was taken 7th overall, who someone on draft night thought made sense to trade picks for, and Leonard Miller, who was also a player who probably could have went in the first round. I think he fell in the second round. But a nice wing. Another comparable size wing to all the wings that you want in this league. He plays with a lot of energy, a great motor. So for me, it's like, no, this is great. This is fantastic. If you believe in what Dillingham could be and you believe in what Leonard can be, and you respect what 4 second-round picks can be, you absolutely agree with me when I say that this is a very handsome haul for Ayo Dosunmu. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. And if those guys don't turn out to be nothing, in my opinion, 4 second-round picks certainly can if you utilize them correctly. So, yeah, no, this is a great trade. I don't know about Julian Phillips. I'm just not familiar. I don't know. So, for all I know, he can be fantastic and make even more sense for Minnesota. But Minnesota does great. They pick up a player that can help them right now, who's going to be able to play some point guard, play some shooting guards, some three guard. I mean, this might actually prop them up a few spots in the Western Conference as to where they're like 7th place or 5th place right now. This might have propped them up to about 3rd or 4th place in the West just by picking this guy up. But they lose some of their young prospects. They lose 4 second-round picks. And that's going to eat away at a team that's already kind of short on tradable assets. So, yeah, man, that's my thing. Last night I was getting on my Lakers case because I didn't think we should have given away 4 second-round picks for Rui Hachimura. They gave away 4 second-round picks and 2 young guys for Ayo Dosunmu. So I think I like Ayo a little more than Rui, but not that much more to where I'm giving up this much in their situation. I may not do this deal if I'm Minnesota, but that they did this deal I think is a good commitment to their win now timeline. It gives them a hell of a running mate in the backcourt with Anthony Edwards. And a retradable piece too. You can definitely trade Ayo later if you want to. This is a very good player to have at a very good time. So I'm a believer in Ayo. I think both of these teams should feel great about this overall. Sometimes it takes a lot to get something really good, and I think that's what Minnesota did. They gave up a lot to get something really good, and I think the Bulls could potentially develop both of these guys, Rob Dillingham and Miller, if they create the opportunities for them, into being what people thought they would be. Because it ain't been that long. It takes 4 years for these guys to develop. Both of them have only been in the league for about 2 or 3 years. So, and didn't get the 2 or 3 years worth of playing time in order to showcase who they actually can be. So if you ask me, Leonard Miller is still on par to be a stud, and Rob Dillingham, if you don't have any expectations for him defensively, he can run up the score when he develops. So hopefully he'll get that opportunity. All right, next trade, Los Angeles Lakers trade Gabe Vincent and a 32 second-round pick to Atlanta for Luke Kennard. I mean, this made my morning. It's the first thing I saw when I got out of the bed. It's the only thing I wanted the Lakers to really do. Everything else could be waited on. I didn't really care. I don't expect this to be a championship year. I'm just sick of watching bad basketball. And Gabe Vincent is bad basketball for my Lakers. So we bring in Luke Kennard, fantastic shooter. He's an expiring contract at $11 million. I'm pretty sure the Lakers are going to re-sign him. I'm not really worried about that. We could talk about the Lakers another time because it's a Laker channel anyway. So I'll get into my opinions about the Lakers in a separate video. But this was a home run for me. Addition by subtraction. Get Gabe the hell out of here is all I asked the Lakers to do. They did it. Thank you, Rob Pelinka. And bringing in Luke Kennard is a nice plus. He's a hell of a shooter. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for my team. And I don't have overly high expectations, certainly not on the defensive end. But, if you guys have been following me, I don't care about defense right now. I care about offense because that's ultimately what our team is about. We can't defend. We know that. But we can run the score up and improve our offense and make ourselves so impossibly difficult to defend that our defense can be our offense. And so I think Luke Kennard helps us kind of step in that direction, and hopefully we play the buyout market to kind of further that direction. I know people think we need to improve our defense. I don't think you can improve your defense to a good enough degree without breaking up your core, and I don't think we can break up our core. So what do? You lean into your offense and move forward with your offense. That's the direction I want the Lakers to take. If they're not going to trade away some people in our core that ultimately make our defense what it is. You lean into your offense. You push into your superpower, and you let your weaknesses be what they are. That's what I believe the Lakers should be doing, and I think this is a step in that direction. So I'm all for it on multiple fronts. I hate that we had to give up our only second-round pick, but nobody was going to take Gabe Vincent outright, man. Nobody was going to take Gabe Vincent outright, and I think Gabe Vincent was a direct deterrent. His minutes, 18 minutes a night, was a direct deterrent to the potential value of other players on his team, which could be more than worth 1 second-round pick if properly showcased. So if you don't give up the second-round pick and get that cancer out of your rotation, then it can cost you more than second-round picks in the form of the players that you're not showcasing, not playing up their value to being above second-round picks. So, it's a worthy investment. Getting Gabe the hell out of here. Moving on. The Bucks are not trading Giannis. We know that. All right, the next trade, the Bucks did pivot and did something. Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey are headed to the Suns for Nick Richards and Nigel Hayes-Davis. Now, I'm not familiar with Nigel Hayes-Davis. Nick Richards is a nice backup center who got more of an opportunity with Charlotte than he did with the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns acquired Nick Richards when they didn't realize that Williams was going to be a trade that we reneged with those same Hornets, for which they could pick up Williams in a different trade. And they also lucked into Kamen Malawatz's trade rights at the same time they were making the Williams trade. So they ended up getting two centers on draft night that they didn't anticipate they would have when acquiring Richards several months earlier. So Richards just got drowned out by the presence of those players coming in, and it was just something they couldn't have foreseen. So they turned Nick Richards into Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey, two players that I like a lot. Cole Anthony never got an opportunity to really showcase what he could do on a Bucks team, of course, run by Doc Rivers, which is another one of these coaches that don't play young players. Doc Rivers don't do a lot of things that make a lot of sense, and his team suck most of the damn times. He's a big part of the problem in Milwaukee. Huge part of the problem in Milwaukee. So now you get Cole Anthony going to a high-powered Phoenix team that has nothing but, fast-paced, full-court press defense. I think the Suns are as good a team to knock out a contender in the playoffs as anybody because of how crappy they play, how deep they are. I almost expect the Suns to knock somebody off they have no business knocking off. The Rockets, the Lakers. I ain't going to say Oklahoma because I don't believe they can beat Oklahoma. But if Oklahoma continues to have injury issues, they would rather not run into a scrappy team like the Suns. Cole Anthony fits the bill. He fits that DNA. He can come out there and run. Cole Anthony's one of the guys where he hardly gets any minutes, but when you do give him minutes consistently, suddenly he's putting up 25 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. I've seen him do it with Orlando more than once, to the point where he has fantasy value when played properly. He landed in Milwaukee, and it was the worst thing for him. Because Doc Rivers don't have no damn sense. Period. So that's really what it is. I love this for Cole Anthony. I still don't know that he's going to get the role that he hopes to get, that he once had in Orlando. But he's more than capable, when given bigger roles, to play well. Meanwhile, Amir Coffey is also a similar player in that regard. He played pretty well with the Clippers there, and he just landed in Milwaukee, and Doc didn't play him. Now he can get to a Suns team that immediately can kind of slot him into a rotation role. I don't know if he'll have the minutes there either because they have so many guards and wings. But that's the thing about the Suns. The Suns are one of the deepest teams in the Western Conference. And they've been able to play guys who've been role players at bigger roles, almost up to all-star level. Talking about guys like Colin Gillespie, Jordan Goodwin, Dylan Brooks. They just have a really good thing going right now. I don't know who the hell is coaching that Suns team, but he's doing a fantastic job. And I think Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey are notable role players that help the Suns be one of the deepest teams in basketball. And I really believe that. They move on from some of their center depth, but then I don't know that they really needed that. They don't really need Nick Richards. There was no minutes to give him. Behind those two centers that I already mentioned, they also had guys like Ryan Dunn and Oso Iguodaro. It was just no room for that. They probably didn't really need any guards either. But to move Nick Richards and Nigel Hayes-Davis and bring in Amir Coffey and Cole Anthony, you gotta feel good about the talent that they brought in. So that's what I think about that. As far as those guys' contracts, try to take a quick look if my phone will do its proper thing. And tell you guys what the Suns are inquiring from a contractual standpoint, because that is equally as important as the player standpoint. But Nick Richards is out at $1 million, 1 year, $5 million expiring. They haven't updated those guys yet. Nigel Hayes-Davis, 1 year, $2 million expiring. So the Bucks get some expiring contracts, $7 million total. And let's see. Amir Coffey is $2 million 1 year expiring. And Cole Anthony was $2 million 1 year expiring. So these are expiring contracts going back and forth. Probably just makes their roster make more sense respectively. The Bucks could use the center position, maybe the the Suns could use addition by subtraction in regards to their center position. I think that's kind of how that goes. So I like it for both teams. Nothing too serious, but I do think that they're picking up a stud in Phoenix with Cole Anthony, somebody who's been far underrated in terms of his usage in this league thus far. Chris Boucher got traded to the Jazz and then waived. So he's a free agent to sign with somebody. There are a couple teams who need centers out there. We'll see where Chris Boucher lands. The Jazz, of course, like I said, they didn't need no front court pieces. Just like they waived another guy that we talked about earlier that went to the Hawks. So too did they waive Chris Boucher. And I think Chris Boucher is going to help the team, man. He can block shots. He can definitely hit some corner threes, stuff like that. Nice role player. Been around for a while, but probably not too old to still contribute to a bench situation. All right, so as we said, Dalen Terry got traded again from the Knicks to the Pels. The Pels are also attaching 2 second-round picks in cash to the deal. And Jose Alvarado is headed to the New York Knicks. So actually, Dalen Terry went from the Knicks to the Pels, and the second-round picks and the cash came with him. And the Knicks will receive Jose Alvarado, the guy who infamously loves to steal the ball when you're not looking in the inbound. So now we don't have to worry about that with the Pelicans 4 times a year as Laker, but we do have to worry about it twice a year with the Knicks. And the Eastern Conference can deal with him and his antics. I like this for both sides. Well, no, not. I guess for the Pelicans because they're trading the expiring contract and got 2 second-rounders, and I value second-rounders that much. Cash considerations only help them. That doesn't help us in any way. So moving on from a player like Jose Alvarado just speaks to them moving on from a timeline that they probably should be moving on from. Jose's more of a win-now guy at this point, somebody who's going to help a playoff team. They are nowhere near that. So for him, I like this on multiple fronts because, of course, he's from New York, a traditional New Yorker. So I love this for him. He gets to go back home and represent the orange and blue, and I know that probably means a lot to him. So this is great. I love that for Jose. And the Pelicans pick up 2 second-round picks, and any type of pick situation for a team like them is good, just for the flexibility overall. Dalen Terry, just a throw-in. Like I said, I haven't heard good things about Dalen, unfortunately. If I'm being real, I ain't been earning a whole lot of good. But he's going to the New Orleans Pelicans as yet another young player that fits in with a timeline that has no expectations upon winning. So that can only be a good thing for a guy like Dalen Terry. We'll see if he's able to earn his way into their situation. I don't know if they've updated this or not, but Jose Alvarado's on a 2-year, $4.5 million. So that's good. They'll probably extend him at some point. I can see Jose sticking around with the Knicks for a little while. He's a playoff guy, so I'm going to love seeing him running around for a contender. He's gonna immediately instill a certain sense of urgency that'll accompany a guy like Josh Hart tremendously. You talk about fire coming into your locker room. He's gonna fit that New York Knicks team tremendously, and I think his spirit, the way that he operates, the way that his fire within him, it could be the difference in a big playoff game. He could win you a game 6. With a bunch of threes and a couple steals and just antics and stuff getting in people's face. He's got a lot of my respect, man. Jose Alvarado is a guy who should have always been on a good team, and this is going to be the first time he gets to play for something, and I think he's going to explode in that situation. So I'm not saying he's going to be some all-star or nothing like that, but Jose Alvarado playing for his hometown, those of us in the Western Conference have seen enough Jose Alvarado. We know what time it is. We know what the Knicks are getting. The Knicks are going to love this guy. They're going to love this guy. They already love this guy, but they really, really going to love having him on the basketball floor. So this is great, man. This is something I actually wanted to see. You talk about a guy who embodies his hometown. He takes New York with him everywhere he goes. That's Jose Alvarado. Ain't no question. He opens his mouth, he's from New York, and he gets to represent his hometown. I think that's the right way to go. So, yeah, that's great. That's probably my favorite trade of the day, if I'm being honest with you. Okay, so something just came in. Xavier Tillman Sr. to the Charlotte Hornets, and it gets the Celtics out of the luxury tax. That was something done right before the buzzer. Hornets get $3.5 million cash as well as Xavier Tillman. So the Hornets have been very active, man. That's one of them after the buzzer type of trades. Came in an hour afterwards. So, yeah, that's the latest. Xavier Tillman's a nice player. He hasn't been able to really do as much with the Celtics. I don't know if he has a landing spot with the Hornets. Maybe they hold on to him. Maybe they don't. It's hard to say. It's hard to say what the Hornets really need at their center position. But if the Hornets are a team that potentially could be switching their timeline into more like, okay, we're happy to win now. Sort of like Portland was last year. That's what I predicted at the beginning of the season, and that's exactly what they've been. A team that, has probably overachieved a little bit. So I can see them keeping Xavier Tillman and making him a part of their rotation. Moussa Diabaté and Ryan Kalkbrenner are their guys at the center position. I love both of those guys for them. But then picking up Kobe White, slapping him next to Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, like that's a winning team now. You got to look at them and say, they can probably make the play-in tournament and maybe even win that game. So, yeah, I don't think they necessarily are going to buy out a guy like Xavier Tillman. Not necessarily. They could use the center depth. I could see him staying there. And so that's what I want to say about the Xavier Tillman news. Him headed to the Charlotte Hornets. Normally, I would say he's going to the Hornets, probably getting bought out. But the way the Hornets have been playing as of late, they got to think they got a good shot at making the play-in tournament. They have to think that. And so for them, Xavier Tillman, $2.5 million 1 year expiring. Can't hate it. Can't hate it. Comes off the books. Low risk. Potentially solid reward. Next up, Hunter Tyson. Headed to the Nets. 2032 second round picks is headed with him to Brooklyn. And for the lesser favorable of the Clippers, Hawks upcoming second round pick. So the Nuggets are getting some type of solid pick because the Clippers aren't very good. The Hawks are probably going to be pretty good, but it's one of those situations where that could be a solid early second round pick, 37th pick or something like that. Not bad. And this is a good draft, so you got to feel good about picking up a pick like that if you're the Nuggets. Hunter Tyson is a shooter. The Nuggets drafted. I don't think the Nuggets have drafted very well, honestly. Over the last couple of years, they just haven't. I think the last pick that I really liked they made is obviously Peyton Watson, but even he has taken some time to develop. It's been like 5 years. He's finally being that guy now. But Hunter Tyson was a guy that, he was cool, man. I didn't really like him on draft day that much. Nice shooter, whatever. He's had some moments with the Nuggets, but it hasn't really turned into what they needed it to, and I don't think you really expected him to based on the homework I did that draft. But he gets to go to the Brooklyn Nets, and I think he's a solid player who can showcase himself a bit better in a losing situation. He reunites with his boy Michael Porter Jr., and Michael Porter Jr. Can kind of take him under his wing, kind of help him get used to the losing that comes with playing for the Brooklyn Nets. And he gets to play with a bunch of young guys who are going to be trying to develop themselves into being real role players and stars in this league in Brooklyn. No expectations, probably a lot of opportunities, especially since they waived Cam Thomas. The need for some shooting has now become a thing for them. So they pick up Agbaji, they pick up Hunter Tyson. They're taking flyers on people. This is a losing team. They need something to develop. They need something to pop. You know what I mean? And taking a guy on like Hunter Tyson can't be bad. Picking a guy like Ochai Agbaji can't be a bad idea for a team like the Brooklyn Nets. Utilizing their roster spots on players that could potentially develop into 2 or 3, 4X players. And that's really what my video was about last night, wanting to see more teams do this. I think the Brooklyn Nets are on the right track, picking up guys like this. And it didn't cost them nothing, a second rounder. What do you care about that for? And they get a second rounder with them, so it's like you're really helping the Nuggets create a roster spot and helping yourself to a potential player that could turn into something. Yet again, they did it again as well. The Boston Celtics trading Josh Minott to the Brooklyn Nets. I really like Josh Minott. Josh Minott had a nice breakout to the start of the season. Kind of got buried in the back of the bench for the Celtics after having some good weeks. I liked him when he was with Minnesota. He had a fantastic preseason about 2 years ago. But, of course, playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves, as we already mentioned, stuck on the team, doesn't play young players. Their coach just is allergic to playing young talent. And so he got buried on the back of the bench and ended up trading or signing with the Celtics, along with Garza, who was also in that situation. They all went to the Celtics. And Josh Minott was able to really showcase himself as a solid player for the Celtics. But the Celtics situation, I guess they felt it was okay to move on from him. I probably would have held on to him if I'm the Celtics, to be honest with you. But, Celtics know what they're doing. They're a pretty good organization, so whatever their choices are theirs. But this is an opportunity for him to really have a nice role in the Brooklyn Nets situation where they need talent like that. He's a breakout candidate, in my opinion. I think his breakout is going to come. He already showed me enough of that in the two situations he was in previously. I like it. I like it a lot. I think the Nets are doing the right thing, taking little guys off of teams that don't have a name, who are still young, who people probably have in their mind are just going to be whatever, and they still haven't developed. They could turn into something. Josh Minott is definitely somebody who could turn into something. Turner Tyson may be able to turn into something. Ochai Agbaji may be able to turn into something. These are good, solid draft picks from just 2 or 3 years ago. They haven't had their 4 years of development, and they haven't had opportunities to be showcased a lot of the time. So I'm very happy for these guys that were in that Minnesota situation who are now going into other situations to maybe have bigger roles. I think of Dillingham, I think of Minott, I think of Garza, I think of Miller. All 4 of them guys I'm very happy for because they landed in the wrong spot initially for young talent, and they never got an opportunity to spread their wings. Same thing with the Golden State guys, man. Trace Jackson Davis, obviously Jonathan Kuminga. These guys have all just got drafted to the wrong spots, man, with coaches that don't want to play young players. And I will tell the NBA, those coaches that don't play young players really do hurt your overall environment, because you got young guys that could potentially help your league by being talented, exciting players, not getting opportunities because these people want to play Gabe Vincent or the representative version of Gabe Vincent of what they have. Those coaches, they may be able to help win. They may be good at certain things, but the biggest thing for the league is the future. And if you're afraid to develop the future, you're going to hurt the league, man. So that's what I'll say to all those coaches out there that are like that. And there's several of them. There's at least 5 that come to mind immediately. And some of them have won, so you're going to keep them around. But they're hurting the league because they won't develop Josh Minott. Quite simply put. So, very happy for Josh Minott. Very happy for Hunter Tyson. Very happy for all those guys that are getting the hell out of those toxic situations for young players. Here's a guy that is another Gabe Vincent. Philadelphia 76ers are trading Eric Gordon and a second-round pick swap to the Memphis Grizzlies. You see what happens when you play these people, these Eric Gordons? When it's time to move them, you have to give up something with them to get them out of there. And I'm sure the Grizzlies as a team that's developing players, that is moving on from a win-now timeline, are going to waive Gordon and send him to China like he belongs. He should have been in retirement. These guys shouldn't be on no damn roster spots. That should be Josh Minott. You get the point? Eric Gordon is a prime example. Last year, the 76ers were dreadful, and their coach kept playing this guy, kept playing Kyle Lowry. Misery was going on in Philadelphia because of players like this. Philadelphia, I'm sure, is very happy to move on from this guy so they can do something proper with their roster spot and give the conversion to Dominic Barlow. This is what should be done all over the league. Anywhere you find these type of dudes, you'll find an underdeveloped guy like Minott or Dillingham that's not getting any opportunities. Trace Jackson Davis can't get off the bench. Because of guys like this who won't retire, who these coaches keep trusting because they've known them for 20 years. Enough. You and them coaches need to get out of this league, man. That's really all I have to say about that. Memphis, go ahead and waive him, please. All right, so the Clippers. This is a big one. My boy Zubac. Salute to my guy Zubac. He's getting traded for the second time in his career for the first time out of Los Angeles. He has been in Los Angeles his entire career, playing for the Lakers for many years and then the Clippers for many years. The Clippers are finally moving on from him, and I think this is a good deal for the Clippers. I really do. They are sending Ivica Zubac to the Indiana Pacers for Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-rounders, and 1 second-rounder. Zubac and Kobe Brown, another one of those young players that I like a lot, who doesn't get opportunities because of these damn coaches. Those 2 guys are going to Indiana. I like this for both teams, honestly, because the Pacers lost to Turner in a situation where he signed with the Bucks for more money than they were willing to pay him. So Zubac can come in and be that center for them. An upgrade in some ways, although he doesn't stretch the floor, but he's an upgrade for sure. Zubac is fantastic, a rebounder, interior presence, great pick and roll guy, good free throw shooting point guard, center rather, and he's going to help them a lot when Halliburton gets back. Them in the pick and roll can be monsters together. They lose Benedict Mathurin. I like Benedict Mathurin, but my problem with Benedict Mathurin is for all of the talent that he has, he's not the brightest basketball player. That was the problem with Benedict Mathurin. He can go, but like he ain't always making the smartest decisions, and it irritated me at times watching him play. He's a big player. He can go for 40. He's getting better. He's athletic. He's wingy. He can play some defense. Ben is good, but like IQ. It's a big thing for me, man. So that was my issue with Benedict Mathurin. Isaiah Jackson, the Lakers initially drafted him, sent him out to wherever the hell we sent him on draft day. He's been okay, but he's had injury issues. He was out for all of last season. I don't even think he's healthy right now. So kind of a throw-in. But then you're talking about 2 first-round picks, 1 second-round pick, and that's the most important thing aside from Ben Mathurin going to the Clippers, which is good. Young, talented Ben Mathurin wing going to the Clippers, excellent pickup. The 2 first-round picks, superb pickup because of a team like the Clippers who's mortgaged all of their picks to Oklahoma and everywhere else, wherever their picks are. This is an opportunity for them to have some flexibility. 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick. This is great. This is great for the Clippers. That is what you need. Young talent and draft equity. Whether you use it or trade it, you just need the flexibility it provides. And the Clippers, a team that is pick poor, has now found themselves in a position to be pick stable. I ain't going to say pick wealthy, but they're in a stable space right now. They have a bit of a future because of this trade for Zubac. I know people don't like that they traded Zubac. Their center position, Yannick Kohlin-Niederhauser, is going to be getting some minutes there. Obviously, now they got Isaiah Jackson, who could play a little bit of center. They still have Brook Lopez, who, he can still shoot the 3, so he's not quite in that Gabe Vincent league yet. He can still play, but I don't know how many more years you want to keep doing this with him. But for now, for a Clipper team that's pivoting away from a win-now timeline, they get to go forward with 2 players in the from the Eastern Conference that I really like. Darius Garland, definitely love what he can be going forward, and Ben Mathurin, definitely love what they can be going forward. They've developed their star level, and they're young, and that's exactly what the Clippers need. Young stuff, because they're not going to be able to get some of their own first picks are likely going to be forfeited. Whatever they had left could potentially be forfeited in this tree stuff with Kawhi Leonard. And you could potentially lose Kawhi Leonard for nothing if contract is voided based on that crap, which is very possible. Mathurin gives them a player they can slip right in, be the starting small forward, a guy who the more opportunities he gets, the bigger he's going to play. He's a star-level guy next to Garland. If they don't have nothing else, they have those 2 running forward, probably win 30 games a season. But, when you couple that with Jordan, you couple that with Kobe, whatever his name is for the Clippers, that's 4 players, young guys that they can say, okay, we got something, and we have the LA market. Maybe we can sign somebody in free agency. Maybe we get a guy 2 years from now, and all of a sudden we could be a playoff team, even though we've mortgaged so much. You got the 2 first rounders you just got in this trade. Maybe you could trade those for another piece. And now you see a path to the Clippers at least having a stable team going forward and withstanding the potential forfeiting of picks and voiding of contracts that could potentially be looming over them. So that's why you trade away Zubac, not necessarily because you just have to get rid of Zubac, but because you needed to liquidate him into flexibility in preparation for what could be potentially coming down for you. And so the Clippers made a good decision here. I like the acquisition of Mathurin for them. I like the acquisition of Garland for them. And further liquidating some of Zubac's asset value into more tradable assets. As we talked about with the Lakers last night, having too many assets wrapped up in one player or having too much of your value wrapped up in few players. In the Clippers situation, that's not good. You need to liquidate some of that. And that's what they did. They liquidated some asset value to create more flexibility for themselves. This is a wise decision. It's wise. It has to be done. So For the Pacers, they get their center. For the Clippers, they get a little bit of flexibility and young talent. And I hate that they gave up Kobe Brown, but it's worth it to get what they got, to get the first and to get the Mathurin, to get Isaiah Jackson. All of that is good for the Clippers. Very sound decision for this franchise that I hate so very much. As far as Zubac's contract, that's what I want to look at. But my phone is now telling me that I need to restart my Wi-Fi. I'm using a hotspot with my phone here, but every time my phone times out, it turns off the Wi-Fi. There has to be a way I can keep it on, but I don't know how to do it. I haven't figured it out. So there are times when if I leave my phone unattended for like 3 minutes or more, it'll cut the Wi-Fi off. So let's see if I can check out the Clippers situation here. They got Garland now. Zubac hasn't been switched over on FanSpo yet, so he is in front of me at 3 years, $18 million. So that gives the Pacers a couple of guaranteed years with their center. $18 million a year for Zubac. He's definitely worth that. So I like that for them. I like that for the Pacers. That's not bad. You gave up some firsts for him. Maybe that's not the greatest thing for you. But they're still a win-now team. They're just taking a year off. They still have their 26-year pick for which they're tanking. That is sound. They definitely did not give that up. Got Tyrese coming back. So they're still a win-now team. Andrew Nembhard broke out this year. Excited about that. They're likely going to have to draft a big. Jarris Walker started becoming a guy. Feel good about that. Jay Huff has been good this year. So in the presence of them struggling as bad as they have as a team, they've seen what they needed to see. And moving on from Ben Mathurin, $9 million 1-year deal. You know, I think the Clippers are going to have to extend Mathurin. You definitely do not want to have him leave at the end of the season. But I don't see any reason why a kid like that's going to leave LA. I don't think so. I don't think Ben Mathurin is going to do anything but re-sign with the Clippers. The role is there. The money's there. Yeah, I don't think he leaves. I think he's a low risk to leave, honestly. So, yeah, $9 million 1-year deal expiring. I'm sure he gets that extension in the offseason. And what else? Who's the other player? Isaiah Jackson, 3 years, $7 million. 3 years, $7 million. Not the greatest contract for Isaiah Jackson. He's okay. I would prefer him not be on for multiple years in the Clippers situation, but I suppose they need a center. You know, they're moving on from Zubac. Giannis is a young player. Lopez old. Kobe Brown is now in Pacer land, so they could probably use Isaiah Jackson from a roster construction standpoint. It's not like they don't have his role. The question is, can he stay healthy worth a damn? The answer has been, of course not. So I think he's a worthy take on to secure Ben Mathurin in the pick equity. If he has to be thrown in or the deal is off, of course you're going to take him if you're the Clippers. So I think both teams win based on what they need. I think both teams win. It's a steep price to pay for Zubac, but when you consider you're likely not going to re-sign Ben Mathurin, you don't want to re-sign Ben Mathurin, it's all right. Now, I think the Pacers could potentially miss Ben Mathurin? Yeah, they could. They got to the finals with the guy. He was a big player. He was a guy who, if nobody else could score, he could have a night where he's going off for 25, 30 points. So, and the athleticism, two-way wing ability, I think they're going to miss him. The wiggly, athleticism, I think they could potentially miss him. But what would you rather be without? That piece when you have what you have already? They do have Aaron Naismith, Jarris Walker starting to step into his own. They do have Johnny Furphy starting to have a bigger role now going forward. Potentially whatever you're going to draft in the league, which is likely going to be a wing, likely could be a small forward with your first overall pick or something like that. Do you really need Ben Mathurin if you draft one of those type pieces, which they're likely going to have an opportunity to get? If you're foreseeing what you're going to need, you probably need your center a bit more. The likelihood that you draft a center with your tanking pick isn't as high because of how the draft is set up. The first 5 picks are not centers. So they have a gaping hole at center. Were they rolling with Jay Huff and Isaiah Jackson at that point? That's not going to cut it. They needed Zubats, in theory, more than they're going to miss Ben Mathurin, in theory. But I do think they'll miss Ben Mathurin, especially if they don't strike it rich in the pick in the draft this year. But I think they will. They're a horrible team this season. So that's really what it is, man. That's what's up. I think the Pacers are just fine. I'm not worried about the Pacers at all. They are having a bad year on purpose. This reminds me of the year the Spurs drafted Tim Duncan. They had a bad year because their best player went down early in the season, so they tanked their butts off and ended up with the greatest Spur to ever play. Literally, that's exactly how they went. So maybe the same thing can happen for the Pacers. Slap him next to Tyrese Halliburton next season, next to Andrew Nembhard, next to Zubats, next to Jarris Walker. I think the Pacers are going to be right back where they were. Probably even better. They may win the championship next time. So who knows, man? The Pacers, they haven't lost their guys. They still got Naismith. They got mostly what they need. And Mathurin was solid, but Mathurin wasn't always there like that. So that's my take on that. I think this works for both teams. I like it for the Clippers a lot. I like it for the Pacers a lot. And that's my opinion on that. All right, Tyus Jones, Mavericks. Hornets are trading Tyus Jones to the Mavericks for Malachi Branham. Malachi Branham's been passed around a lot. I like him because he has length and stuff like that. But he hasn't really developed into much of anything lately. And so he's going to be landing in Dallas. Dallas probably have him in the same role he's been everywhere else he's been. Boston, Washington, this guy, San Antonio. This guy's been in a lot of different situations. And the Mavericks are yet another one. He's probably going to be in the same space. Tyus Jones and Mavericks. Tyus Jones. So Malachi Branham's going to the Hornets, rather. Tyus Jones goes to the Mavericks. Confusing. But, Malachi, Charlotte, whatever, same thing applies. Tyus Jones goes to the Hornets is very good because the Hornets, the Mavericks, Jones, Mavericks, because they need point guard depth. They need anybody who can dribble the ball and pass it around. Tyus Jones, if he has a superpower, is his assist to turnover ratio is fantastic a good portion of the time. He barely turns the ball over and get a lot of assists. Now, does he play any defense? No. Is he as good as his brother? No. He's a little long in the tooth at this point, role player. Probably not going to play for every team. Kind of Gabe Vincent-ish. Yeah, he's all of that. But he's had some good seasons where he's really helped with continuity and taking care of the basketball, and that is exactly what the Dallas Mavericks desperately need is some point guard play. So for them, I like it. He's an upgrade from D'Angelo Russell in some specific categories. They didn't use D'Lo anyway. But he can help. You know what I mean? They only have, Brandon Williams, I believe, playing the point guard position at this point. Tyus Jones gives the Dallas Mavericks exactly what they need. A guy who can play the point, period. That's really what it comes down to. And the Hornets open up a $7 million trade exception as the Hornets continue to tack on good trade equity. Draft equity, young players. The Hornets are doing a good job. And Cam Thomas has been waived. He should have took the money. That's what I'll say from the Nets. He should have took the money. He didn't take the contract, and now he's out in the wild trying to find a team. I'm pretty sure he'll sign with somebody. There are a couple teams I think of right away that could use him, probably the Denver Nuggets. Anytime you have a high-powered scorer, Jokic can always find him a million times over and get the most out of him. My Lakers are interesting for Cam Thomas, I think. Who else? There are a couple teams out there for Cam Thomas. I think the Orlando Magic potentially could be interesting for Cam Thomas. Dallas potentially as well. A team that could always use some extra scoring. For a guy like Cam, he just needs to get on the team and remind people that he's somebody that can really, really light it up consistently. Brooklyn, you would think that would be a great opportunity for him to do that, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen. But I just wonder if he is going to be motivated wherever he goes. That's the question. He didn't look that great against my Lakers last time we saw Brooklyn just a few games ago. But I know what he can do. He just needs to get healthy, stay healthy, and that's been an issue for him. He's a guy who can go for 40 points for an entire week and then miss a month with an injury. And that loop makes him somebody that people kind of are hesitant to really give big money to. But he can score like crazy. Maybe not anything else. So that's my thing with Cam Thomas. I think he's okay. overall, I think it averages out to okay because he's really bad in certain areas and really great in one area. So if you really need scoring, yeah, he's a guy. If you really need other things, he's not the guy. So that's kind of what it is. It's okay. It's okay. It balances out to being okay, and you have to wonder where his head's at because in negotiations he was talking about he wanted to get paid like some stars. He felt that he should be getting the type of money that so and so was getting, and somebody else is getting. It's like, bro, you have no self awareness whatsoever, and it's eating away at the desire for people to bring you in because they think you're stupid. It's God's honest truth. And you think you're supposed to be getting paid like so and somebody else big name? Like, no, you're not. And so I think that also hurt him as well. I think that a lot of that being done is what led to what you saw today. I really believe that. You got the big head and you're not contributing in other areas, and your team that you own is the worst team in basketball. I mean, it's a lot coming together to just make it look like Cam Thomas is not the guy. So it's going to be interesting to see what his market looks like, but I do think he'll find a team. Ja Morant did not get traded. That's not news. We know that. If he did get traded, we mentioned it. And that's it. And the other thing that happened was what we already mentioned with Xavier Tillman going to the Charlotte Hornets. So, yeah, man, that's your day. That's your trade deadline day. We reacted to everything, I believe. We had made a video on James Harden and Garland prior to them actually making the trade. So if you can go back and look at that video, see my thoughts on that. I was on board with both sides. I thought it was good for both teams. And yeah, that's it, man. I'm a happy Laker fan, dude. We didn't do everything that everybody wanted us to do, but we did the thing that I think we must do, and that was get Gabe Vincent the hell out of here. I'm thrilled. I didn't really need my Lakers to do anything else, honestly. I just needed Gabe gone. So from my perspective, that's it. Like I said, I don't think it's a championship year for the Lakers. I didn't want to give up the stuff that we could potentially use for Giannis. I didn't necessarily want to give up any flexibility. I hate that we had to send out a second rounder, but again, as I've already mentioned, I think the second rounder will be made up in other areas if we utilize our roster in ways that we weren't able to when Gabe Vincent was getting 18 minutes a night. So that's my Laker thing. And Giannis didn't get traded, which means we have a shot at getting him. So why would I be upset at that? I'm worried about losing Rui in free agency a little bit. A little bit. Not too worried about it. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. So if he does sign somewhere else, then that's just $18 million off our books. And if he does sign somewhere else, it's likely going to be to a price tag that we didn't want to give him. So, and then we'll probably be bringing somebody else in, and instead that we probably like a little more. So that's like best case scenario if we don't re-sign Rui. I'm not worried about that too much, honestly. I'm more so worried about losing AR than I am about losing Rui, or both of them. So there's some things to consider there, man. But you know, we definitely got rid of Gabe, and I think that was the most pressing thing on the tab for the Lakers short term. So as a Laker fan, I'm straight. I'm cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. When you don't have high expectations for teams doing a lot, you can't be disappointed, and that's kind of where I've been. I don't have high expectations. This has been the most active trade deadline in my life, I think. I don't think I've ever seen a trade deadline this active, this many pieces. I think they said it was like 28 trades with like 60-something players traded over the last 2 weeks leading up to this deadline. That is terrific activity for the NBA. Congratulations, NBA, for making this deadline very fun for us. And I hope you continue to do that. We like this stuff. This is what makes your league as fun as it is. When people move from team to team, new jerseys, new attitudes, new timelines. All of that is very healthy for the overall fan sentiment. So yeah, that's really what I want to say, man. There's nothing worse than a inactive trade deadline. Luckily enough, we didn't have anything like that this year. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.